Hello, everyone. We are on episode 12 of Design Company Podcast, and we have a very special guest, Sonya Barlow, who is today going to speak to us about diversity and inclusivity in business and in life in general. Sonya, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And before trying to introduce you in any way, shape, or form, the best way to do this is just to ask you, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Yeah, that's great. So yes, as mentioned, my name is Sonya Barlow. I am an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, and a diversity advocate. I've worked in technology for the last 5 years, and 2 years ago started a brunch club to bring women together, especially in the tech space, to talk about the common challenges within the workplace. I found myself having more than I should have admitted, to be honest. I just didn't have a sense of community and who to speak to. 2 years later, we are now a global not-for-profit social enterprise, expanding across Europe, and having just recently launched in the Canadian region as well. And what we do is we provide a kind of a space, tools and resources to enable, empower, educate women and underrepresented individuals very much to enter the space of technology, entrepreneurship, business, with a big subset and a big emphasis on diversity, digital skills, confidence, and personal branding. And then I also run my own consultancy where I go and provide the same or similar services to companies, because it seems that everybody has a diversity agenda, and yet not every company is doing what they should be doing, and they most definitely do not have the budget behind the agenda. So I go and just remind them of how important diversity is, how important inclusive environments are, and most religiously, how that can impact their profits and their productivity. And that's kind of my purpose in life, is to make sure we do have a more inclusive and intersectional, both kind of like workspace and kind of fun space for us to thrive in.
Awesome. That sets the scene very nicely. I'm going to shoot with first question. Mohammed, please prepare the next one. But my first question that came to mind is, what is the purpose of diversity in a typical company?
That's a great question, and I actually get that question quite a lot. I think to answer your question in its first point is, not everyone knows what diversity is, so the purpose comes after. But if we start with the purpose for any company, the purpose for any company is to meet its shareholders, the needs of its shareholders, right? And that normally comes down to the standard KPIs of profitability, and kind of growth modeling. So if we're talking about money, and everybody's talking about money, especially right now, the core purpose of a company is to make money. And how you can do that is you can achieve that through diversity. And so diversity is very much the analogy of inviting someone to the party. Inclusivity is when you're allowing them to dance. You're playing the music they can also kind of vibe to. But diversity is you're allowing them to even enter the party. You're allowing them to enter the room. So by being a diverse company, you are making it accessible for everyone, every intersectionality. And intersectionality means the kind of the different divides that we have. So given the race, the ethnicity, the low social economic backgrounds, the privilege that you might have with the education system. And so to answer your question, the purpose of having diversity is by allowing a number of different thoughts and thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and most importantly, kind of, personalities into the room, so that you can create ideas that are representative of everyone, and you can therefore thrive as a business. Diverse teams have been proven to increase productivity by 33%, profitability by a similar figure. And diversity doesn't just mean gender, but it definitely starts with gender.
Makes sense. So, I mean, I love what you said, Sonya. At the end of the day, right, this good old model of having people that are all exactly looking the same in a room, agreeing with each other, it's not exactly going to lead us to the future of ourselves as a race, as an economy, etc. Right? So, let's say I'm running a company. I want to actually have these diversity initiatives. What kind of people should be involved to make that a success?
That's a great question. To answer it really simply is diversity needs diversity. So if you're running a company and you're looking to hire, if we base it on gender, you know, kind of non-binary, gender fluid, or kind of female talent, and your whole kind of diversity panel or initiative is made up of white men or black men or brown men, but ideally they're just, you know, men as a total category, then therefore you're not having the right or the same or similar representation in the room. And so the first thing that companies need to do to enable diversity is to allow for the diversity of thought and kind of representation in the room. Now, the second question often to that is, what if our company doesn't have the diversity, right? And that's such a valid point as well. And many companies now don't have the diversity, especially if they're startups, if they've been founded by a friend or a cohort. And so my answer to that question is then you seek your connections and you come in and you create like focus groups, or you work with communities such as my community, Like-Minded Females. That's one of the reasons we were set up. Or you bring kind of different individuals into the mix, or you use technology today and share your opinion and say, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I don't have the representation in the room, so I'd love to get your views on it. Please tell me where I'm right or wrong. So we have so many initiatives that we can use right now that I'm not one to agree with the excuse of we didn't have the representation or we couldn't find to them, because that is the excuse that people have used towards me, to be very honest, very often in the last few weeks as well.
So there seems to be a bit of a systemic approach to this, because I've been involved in a lot of transformation of organizations, and it's been a lot focused on products and systems and so on. But one realizes that people come first, because if the same people are running the company over and over and over again, they just want to do it exactly the same way as before. So now that, let's say, we've brought in a little bit more of a diverse, at least an idea of diversifying the company, how can we change the system from, let's say, a company's being run by white middle-aged men, and they want to diversify into all sorts of races, genders, etc. How does that systemic change go about? Is there a recipe?
Yeah, and that recipe is, you know, let's use the common COVID analogy of banana bread. Everyone has a similar same recipe for banana bread, but you put in your own little ingredients, knowing what you like and see how it tastes in the end, and you try again. My point being that there is no one size fits all approach, but there's definitely a nice to have list. The first point I really want to stress is this is not an anti-white men kind of like movement. I think men, well, for me, men have always been my biggest allies, right? Men have actually been the ones who have helped me to progress. For when I've wanted promotions, they're like, right, you know what you want, you're ambitious, we're going to help you. So it's never been about the anti-men movement. What it's been about is the equality, why is it that a man, regardless of race or kind of ethnicity, is paid minimum 18% more than I am for the same amount of work or more amount of work? Why is it that the social networking opportunities all kind of are surrounded around going to the pub or going for alcohol or going for a drink after work when I have carer responsibilities and I may need to go home? So that's kind of where it stems from. To really answer your question, there is no absolute one size fits all, but there is a nice to have and things you should start doing, right? So for one, we need to have an honest and open conversation, right? We're having this now, so that's great. We've ticked that off, and we should be transparent. With transparency comes a non-judgment. So this is not a personal attack on you or on me. This is a kind of a objective view of society, and we've decided like collaboratively that we need to do better. 3, it's having that representation. And if that representation doesn't exist, it's having those allies. And what an ally means is someone who is kind of, you know, hand in hand going with you to make that difference. So if that white man, let's say in that room, is not sure of where to start and he's not sure of how to lead the movement, what he can do is he can support the movement by becoming a sponsor or an ally, by saying, do you know what, I think you're right and I want to help you in achieving so and going forward. And last of all, you know, it is about trying. until you try, there is no fair, it's not fair game if you don't try, if you don't give it a shot. You try in the sense of, let's take this approach, let's see what people are thinking. And like I mentioned, if you can't do it internally, then you come to external community and organizations and there are so many of us. We're popping up because we want to help, but we're kind of saying, here we want to help, go through it. The last point I'd make is there is a kind of approach in the air where people do say, kind of the more senior leaders, they have a way of doing things and they want to keep it doing it that way. So you communicate on their terms, right? Senior leaders, what do they want? They want money, right? Let's bring it all back to money. They want money, they want to get rich, they want to be profitable. And if not be rich, they just want to meet profits. Talk to them in the way that they want to be spoken to. Think about where they're kind of, black and white is. Talk to them in black and white and bring those data points and those stats to the boardroom, to the conversation, to say, if you want to venture into this target market, you're going to have to need those representation. And that target market is worth X amount. Employing women into the workspace or for example, women leading businesses, that's a 3 trillion. Trillion's not even a real number. It's a digital number. Do you know what I mean? It's massive. That's a 3 trillion kind of a market that we haven't even touched. And we're more than 50% of the purchasing power. So why would you not want to cater to us? We will make you rich if that's what it's coming down to. And that's the simplest analogy that I can use because everyone talks money.
Love what you said.
I'm sold on that one.
I mean, right. So if you want to if you want to kind of break the game and make things evolve, well, meet people on their terms, but then show them the way towards the light. Essentially, is what you're saying, right? So, I mean, if we look at the innovation side, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the more diverse people you have, and, not even about gender or race, but just the more different people you have with different life experiences, the more new ideas you get, and obviously the more competitive you get in the marketplace. What I'd like to know is, what kind of innovation are you seeing in diversity? I mean, we have the old school method of quotas, but I'm sure there's a lot more advanced and recent and impactful stuff that's been coming out.
Oh, that's such a good question. So quotas is a whole different question in itself. Is it right? Is it not right? I'm one to debate. It's a starting point, but don't do it for the sake of doing it, just to show that you're doing something. Because we can talk to your employees, and actually employees do like to talk. So when you're doing something just for the sake of a quota, the vibe that your employees or your colleagues will give is often not great. And that kind of people buy into people, and 80% of your decisions are made through connecting with people, referrals or networking. So for the first sake, because if you're just doing quota for the quota, it's not going to work longhand and it's not going to be sustainable. But to answer your question, companies are definitely diversifying their diversity approach. One of the ways they're doing it, which is great, is that they are working collaboratively with communities. Now, a community platform is a kind of social-led platform built by, normally 1, 2, 3 people with a distinct purpose and an actionable purpose. And most communities aren't looking to be profitable. They're just looking to make impact. And so there's one approach. So, for example, we have partners and sponsors who work with us, and we've got following over 10,000 that we've built in 18 months. We've got a mailing list of over 3,000 that we've built in 6 months, and LinkedIn is, it's hitting 4,000 in 6 months. But the point being, we've got the numbers to kind of really address those focal points. So what companies are doing is coming to us saying, look, we've got this research project and we've got different products that we're leading into the market. They're innovative, but really want to get your members' thoughts on it. But what we don't want to do is, we don't want to be looking like we're just hitting a quota, and we don't want to be seen like another company. So what can we do to work together so we can get their market research, but we can also help them in the goals that those kind of individuals may have? And that's great. The second thing they're doing is they are investing into startups and accelerators, which is definitely another avenue and a whole different conversation. But the startup accelerator market is booming because a lot of them are allowing for individuals who maybe don't have ideas, but definitely want to be a part of this innovative and kind of product-led scene. And so they're able to come into it, find teams, join together, build something. And so then companies are able to kind of sponsor, commission, or grant them funds to say, hey, go and take that idea and let's see if it works. And at the same time, they're giving them the autonomy and the power to do what they do best. And the last thing is, and this isn't necessarily what they're doing per se, but that whole conversation right now around ethics, value, sustainability, and the transparency that's coming out is really important, because innovation is also about addressing and acknowledging where you've gone wrong, and then reiterating the process for the next product or service that comes out. So the same way that we innovate kind of business ideas and business products is the same way we're innovating the strategy that it takes to diversify businesses or companies at this moment. And so having that very honest, transparent approach is definitely going to work, and is working for companies, but is definitely going to work for them in the future. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, Terry, I love what you said about diversifying diversity initiatives. I mean, that's what it's about, right? It's not about having a sectarian approach, but really including everybody, even us good old white males, and just collectively thinking, hey, how do we include everybody, get the new ideas out, and then move forward towards a more inclusive workplace?
Just to be 100% clear here, I always put on diversity forms, I put white other as my choice. Whatever that means, white other. That's for me. But so then we come to the products bit here. And so we've built a product. Weirdly, the book that I'm writing, Design Company, has first got a piece of software, a whole bunch of consultancy around it. And now the book is emerging off the back of that. And even these conversations that we're having with someone like yourself, Sonya, is part of the research for the book. So I'm making a disclaimer here that I'm reserving full right to quote your best one-liner in the book and give you shout outs.
As long as I get the shout out, it's complete.
Absolutely. So so we built this product that is Design Company product that gets everybody's ideas in completely diversified way included into what becomes a dashboard in this way, so that everyone within the company can see what everyone else is thinking anonymously and then act on those ideas. But what are the kind of products that diversity impacts on? Does diversity make better products? What are the products that ensure diversity is implemented in companies?
So is your question to do with company diversity, i.e. what software or tools can we use to diversify? Or is your question to do with how diversity can make certain industries better?
Both.
Okay.
Let's start with the inner aspect of it and then move on to the outer aspect.
Yeah. So one of the great tools, right, is we currently recording this during COVID, which means that a lot of people are now going online. Obviously this session is remote. We have remote teams. One of the signature tools that companies can enhance and bring into their businesses is a really easy to use kind of social, internal, interactive community building software. So just to quote a few teams, Slack, being two of them. The reason for that is it allows people to feel like they're a part of something bigger and a part of that like social belonging. So diversity also stems from feeling like you belong. And belonging obviously comes from Maslow's hierarchy of needs that, everybody is ever quoted to in every book you've ever read in the last few years, to be honest. But the idea is that as an individual, you want to belong and you want to feel like you are accepted for the way you are. And so, through using these tools, you're able to bring in that community feeling, and community is such a key term in diversity and inclusivity. But saying that, companies need to also teach their staff members how to use it correctly, what the functionality is, and onboard them. The second to that is then when you're doing Zoom calls or kind of virtual presence, again, it's great to have the virtual technology you have in businesses to be able to kind of pick up the phone or pick up and video call and have a conversation wherever you are. And what that means is teammates and colleagues don't necessarily have to be in the same place, but they can still have a sense of interaction. and therefore you can get diverse candidates globally if they don't have to be under one roof. But equally, it's up to the company to teach and onboard individuals on how to use these systems and tools. And I keep using this as the same example is because since we've gone into this lockdown, I receive hundreds of messages a week from people saying, how do I use Zoom? How do I use Google Hangouts? How do I even have a work from home structure? I've never done it before. And now I feel this intense pressure from my manager who keeps messaging me and micromanaging me. But at the same time, I don't know how to turn my laptop off. And there's like a juxtaposition happening. And then when you talk about kind of diversity in the workplace, the systems and tools don't necessarily have to be software, but they could be just the initiatives that you're running. So I alluded to the point of kind of going for after work drinks. And at each company I've been in, I make a point of having something during breakfast. Because if you have carer responsibilities, for example, or even if you don't, most people just have a life, you're willing to come in half an hour earlier and do something to socialize and create the sense of community rather than stay after work for 2-3 hours because people finish normally at different times. And a really simple example, a really silly example even, is tools processes, they also incorporate like things, okay? So I use veganism. Veganism was on the rise in the UK, like 400% year by year. Now, if you know your colleagues or your employees may be of a different dietary requirement and you only have the same milk in the fridge, you're not allowing for that inclusive environment to be built. And it's small, tiny things like that can change everything. If I'm an employee and I don't drink cow's milk, but I go into work and I have to pay for my own milk and put it in the fridge when everybody else gets a free cup of tea, let's say, at some point, and it could be minor, but that's like, when you chop in, when you kind of tally it up, that could be 30-40 pounds that I'm spending it out of my own pocket just to make sure that I can have that cup of tea that everybody else can have, and therefore I don't feel included and I don't feel like I'm taken seriously. And it's definitely like something that we need to consider. Now, to your second question, what industry can diversity really impact? So femtech is a massive one, right? Predominantly technology spaces are filled with men. So women only make up 15% or so. Now, feminine technology, whatever they may be, and kind of the healthcare market, again, made up of men. But if you're creating products for women by men, you don't actually know what they want. And you've never actually asked them. So there's a lot of things out there that have absolutely no use because you've never actually brought the person that's going to purchase it into the conversation, right? So that's just one. That's like a massive one. Second, and these are examples that I'm using because actually we've had these conversations beforehand. So femtech is definitely one of them. Second, investment, money, finances, budgeting. Actually, if you think culturally, so I come from an Asian background, my mother was always the financial controller. Yes, my father was the main breadwinner. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She raised the kids. But what that meant was my father would give her the pot of money and be like, right, do what you need to do with it, but make sure that this roof doesn't fall down. And so she controlled the finances. But then when you go on the same or similar investment apps, they don't make the user interface easy for those that have maybe limited time, and nor do they take into account the amount of money that may be possible for investment or where they want to invest, as two examples. And the third example is the mobile phone industry, right? I cannot hold my phone in one hand and use the keyboard because it's too big for my hands. Because naturally women are smaller than men.
I actually must admit that these phones as well are like big for me to use as well, and I have relatively big hands. I think this has just gone way off size.
and that's the thing, right? It's so what am I meant to be doing? I've got a phone. I can't. So I hold my phone and I literally need to hold it with both hands to be like, right, I need to use it, or I use my kind of thumb keyring here. Why are we not in that conversation? Because it makes no sense. When I go to the gym where they have the mats, how am I meant to reach up there to put the mat back? That's like, a foot taller than I am. The average man is 5'8". The average woman is 5'5", right? If you're making this equipment for women, that market, if you're making the equipment for men, the market of women, which is increasing in fitness, is therefore going to need something. When I go to a hotel, the slippers in the hotels don't fit me, right? So I look like a clown.
I mean, just to bounce off on that, what you said, Sonya, and also something earlier that inspired me, it seems to me like a really good way to, if we had to say, our experience as human beings being a product, whether in the workplace or personally, it sounds to me like diversity is exactly like a loving relationship. It's not about big declarations of love. It's about ongoing, habitual, small gestures and attention to detail. That is an actual experience.
Tiny. I would just love to go to a gym and to be able to put my mat back where it's meant to be on the stand and not have to ask someone, or go to a hotel room and have my slippers fit me and not feel like a clown when I'm going down to breakfast. It's a really, really relevant example, actually. So I don't know if you've seen it, but Monopoly have just released a new commercial video, and I can guarantee you that if you watch the video, and you have no idea it's Monopoly. That's the core market, right? And in the beginning, they're encouraging girls into STEM, and they're encouraging girls into tech, and they're talking about all of these really cool multi-dimensional things. So you're thinking it's a completely different advert, and then it's like Mrs. Monopoly. And you're looking at it like, well, one, who let this go out? Because this does not make any sense. Two, does that mean Monopoly was gendered to begin with? Because I'm sure 50% of your market did not think that. And three, the messages I'm receiving right now, all of those that don't identify as men are like, what is this? All the men are the ones who are messaging saying, that's a lovely message. We get it. It's going to get more girls into STEM. We understand where it's come from. And all the women and the young girls are like, no, we have no idea who let that marketing kind of commercial out into the open, because it doesn't want to make us buy it. What it makes us want to do is question if Monopoly was for men to begin with. And we don't need any more of those kind of, curious questions that make no sense. We just need more representation in the room so that these kind of mistakes stop happening before they get released.
Interesting design considerations there. Mo, you're on next with money topic.
Well, I think you've summed it up perfectly, Sonya, right? So if you want to get diversity adopted in more traditional organizations, talk to the shareholders, so talk about the profits, talk about the revenue. So I think let's drive the point home here. What's the biggest cost of a lack of diversity? Because it sounds to me like diversity is pretty cheap to implement, or not very costly. And it's just about people actually having open conversations, and I'm sure there's help for that. When you don't do that, when you fail to do that, what's the cost for your company?
So you are losing. The most recent report says you could be losing anywhere between kind of 250 billion to 3 trillion pounds in the UK economy. Your profits are, and this is a definite, are increased by 33% if you have just gender diversity. Now, this is not race, this is not ethnicity. As a brown person, of course, I'm going to fight the race and the ethnicity card as well. The intersectionalities, but let's just talk gender here. Productivity, you're losing out on, and ultimately you're completely right. There is no extra cost to being diverse. That we're not asking you to change the way you recruit. We're asking you to be more considerate where you recruit. So you're getting the same amount of applications. Just make sure that your job, your job descriptions are neutral, gender neutral. And what that basically means is, from a gender perspective, a man will apply for a job if he can do 10 or 20% of something, right? You just swipe right. That's just a common man thing. You just swipe right. And that's not to generalize all men, but here I'm just generalizing to make a point. And And a woman will not apply until she can do kind of 80 to 90% of something, for sure. So if a job description has 17 bullet points and it says like, it has like 10 requirements and 7 nice to haves, I've already looked at that and thought, do you know what, that's too many things for me to do, I'm not going to do it. And yet, October last year, I was commissioned to go into one of the top big 4 consultancies, so one of the big 4, and they were not able to diversify their applicant pool, and they had a team of kind of 6 males on the team, and they wanted to increase its diversity at least. And they had this kind of job description, and it had like 20 odd points, and then at the bottom it had a really nice kind of phrase saying travel occasional, right? Travel is occasional. So I spoke to them, I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, oh no, nothing, actually travel is optional. I'm like, so why does it say occasional on it? They're like, oh, we just figured that people think traveling is really cool, so they'd want to travel, so we put it on there. I was like, okay, so what is your work from home benefits? They're like, yeah, you can work from home whenever. I'm like, so where does it say that? They were like, oh no, we didn't think that was relevant.
This is exactly what we said earlier. Bringing a non-diverse group of people together to diversify diversity doesn't work.
No, and you know, they had, in 3 months, they had 2 applications. I changed their job description. I kind of very much told them about their unconscious biases, and I helped them in their approach. And in a week, they had 6 applications from women, because you know, you have to take into account intersectionality. So as a brown woman, to be honest, not even that I have carer duties, but maybe I don't live in London. And so maybe I don't want to travel into London. Maybe I have family that, you know, don't necessarily want me to be out and about all the time. Maybe I have a life that I just don't want to be out and about. I have a mortgage, etc. For any circumstance. If I read a job description that says travel occasionally via one of the big 4, which are already known to have hard kind of work-life practices, it's going to make life really difficult for me. And what that's going to do is I'm going to think, right, they're going to kind of snap their fingers and tell me to be in the other part of the country the next day. I'm not even going to apply, you know, and it's off-putting. So to your point, and I'm sorry, my answer's been slightly long-winded, but you are losing out on trillions of pounds just because you refuse to diversify your processes.
Looks like we're going to need trillions to bail ourselves back out of the kind of debts we've kind of printed off for recently. So it's great time to be tapping into trillions more of potential. So moving on to growth then, one thing that, as you were speaking, I want to kind of almost, you know, go straight for the jugular here, which is that with the wording like-minded females, right? There is a kind of feeling of a almost like unconscious or conscious bias there, you know, that there is a massive drive now towards employing more females, and some of the kind of rhetoric in advertising around toxic masculinity and so on, with like Gillette and so on, has been kind of almost like reverse discriminatory. Yeah. And so how do we grow diversity and inclusivity in a truly diverse and inclusive way?
You're completely right? So when I first created this organization, and I'm very honest about my journey, I did it because I needed help, right? I was a woman in tech. I had no social media beforehand. I had no connections into any world. My managers were not great people. And I was stuck. So for me, when the name came about, I was like, wow, this sticks. Great, I'm just going to keep it. And there was definitely unconscious bias even when I started, and that's why I'm so key about it now, because you know it worked. My branding was also pink. Not to say pink is a feminine color, but it definitely is represented more on the softer kind of feminine tones. And so as we expanded, I realized, you know, this isn't just a woman in tech problem, it's an everyone problem. And that everyone means regardless of gender. And so by the end of 2019, so we'd only been going for a year by then, 30% of our engaged audience were men. And at our workshops, online and offline, 25% of the room were men. And then a part of me was like, right, maybe the name isn't doing me justice. So I actually shared a survey out and about, and we were a part of 3 conferences last October and November. And so when people were coming, we did primary market research on the spot. And we were like, we're called Like-Minded Females, shall we change it? And over 80% of people said no, including the men. They said the reason we come to your stand or to approach you is because of the name, because it's catchy, right? What we have done now is we have transitioned that slowly into LMF network, just to help with that inclusivity aspect, but the LMF will always be there. And also because without knowingly, we have expanded into Canada, so Toronto and Madrid in Spain very quickly. And so we're franchising it out. And so Like-Minded Females is definitely snappy, but LMF network is a little bit more community inclusive. The difference with our network is we run workshops which are skills based. And the ones that the men show up to the most are around balance, work and lifestyle, imposter syndrome, confidence, and negotiation, right? So even these like stereotypes that we have, men can negotiate better, and the women definitely exist to some extent, but it doesn't mean that there aren't kind of characters out there that need more help. And so you're completely right. There seems to be a conversation that needs to be had. But the great thing about the kind of equality agenda or the feminism that we lead is that we want to make sure that that equality, i.e. when men want to talk about mental health, or when men want to be slightly more emotional than they are known to be, for example, they have the space and they have the room to do so. So inclusivity, exactly what I said in the beginning, is when you allow them to dance, right? You bring them to the party, but you allow them to dance. Inclusivity is we're bringing everyone into that conversation and we're letting them come as their best, truest, authentic self and share what they need to share. And that will take some time, and that's taking some time for us, and that will take some time for the nation. But the first thing to do is to admit where maybe you have some unconscious bias and where you need to kind of help yourselves and help others. The second is to go out and do the research and to gain really understand what's happening within the market. And the third is to start really actioning and addressing those changes. We're an action-led community. I've started a podcast in 2 weeks because I woke up one day and I was like, I'm just going to do it. I started a network overnight because I was frustrated with what was happening. So we lead and we take action, and we want men or those who are kind of non-binary and gender fluid to also show up and have that conversation with us, because we're not going to win, or we're not going to change, or we're not going to create impact just by it being us, right? Otherwise that seems quite culty, and cults don't really work. So
love what you said, by the way, Sonya. I mean, I see a lot of people talking about diversity, but as Jason said at the start, it ends up being reverse discrimination, whereby instead of women suffering, it becomes men. So I think this idea of just saying, hey, you know what, let's bring just different people together, forget their gender, race, whatever, just give them what they need and allow these different complementary personalities to help each other. I mean, for me, that is the healthy way forward. And I just hope that more people on either extreme just come to the table and say, hey, you know what, we're different, but we can advance together and enrich each other.
So one of the other questions, now that we've covered all the kind of touched on all the areas of design company model, one thing that does also come to my mind is, and it's somewhat like male female related, but it's really more importantly related to the way companies get managed. And I remember back in 2002, which shows a little bit about my age, I studied master's degree in business management. And one of the modules we had was corporate structures. And I thought it was like the most boring thing ever. And it ended up being one of the most interesting modules. And we had like a leading professor on corporate structures talk to us. And he said, corporations have been steadily moving from somewhere like 40 layers in management and sort of power structure from back in 50s and 60s all the way down to 20 layers in 80s, and then 7 layers in what was at the time more kind of modern times. But now we seem to be moving more towards holacracy and flat structures. So basically, to put it in crude terminology, patriarchy is falling and matriarchal management models, which is nice 3 M's there, matriarchal management models, seem to be arising. I class designed company model as a matriarchal management model, and certainly the software is much more flat, if not just a single layer kind of approach. So what can you say about that?
So I do agree the changes are occurring, and you know, you've kind of given us a really good lesson in the history, and you can see the changes are occurring. I think the issue is that they're not occurring fast enough, and they're not creating as much impact as we want them to create. I've worked in 2 startups. They along other startups are very open and honest in their flexible working from home, autonomy, no hierarchy structure. One of their key kind of wins is it's a flat structure, so you'll be able to kind of really come in and get involved. Yes and no. There is always someone who is senior who needs to make the decision, and if the decision does not meet their KPIs or their shareholders, that decision is not met. And equally, I've been in companies where they have a more structured approach and been happier. So just because you're in a flatter structure does not mean that the patriarchy is falling. Literally, what that does mean is it's easier to share ideas, and it's easier to have ideas turned down. Yeah, it's in front of you. It's very kind of blunt to the point. However, we also have to think about the size of businesses. Now, if you're talking about scale-ups and startups, diversity is on their agenda. But what's really on their agenda is just being able to feed themselves.
Yeah.
And so they're going to go out and they're going to try and do everything they can to feed themselves. So if we're talking, here's $5,000 and let's go put it to a conference, or let's go put it towards a diversity agenda or a diversity community or a piece, unfortunately, the companies are still going to go for the conference. And so my point being that it's the inner mentalities that we need to change. It's the education system that we need to change. It doesn't matter if you study in 2002 or if you studied 2 years ago, if you're studying now, the education system, any form of education, academia or kind of alternative education is still teaching us that we need a business plan and then we need to go make a business. That doesn't exist. There's no such thing as that. We all know that we create a business either as a hobby or a side hustle, and then create a business plan when we have to because an investor wants to invest in us. So equally, the same way that it is really simple to go get a promotion, you have to just have a conversation and give them the nice to haves. It doesn't exist because there's always someone who has a different KPI or has a different goal than you do. So my point being that yes, the structures are changing. Yes, that we do see changes. However, they're still slower. They're not as significant, and maybe the changes aren't where they need to be, right? Women in kind of VC and VC funding for women is less than 10%. It's less than 5%. And so if you're not investing in those businesses that are up and coming, because research says that there's a lack of trust, or there's still a mindset that actually she's a woman and she might go and get pregnant. You haven't asked her, if she wants a baby or not, but you've already made a decision that she will go end up get pregnant. You're not going to invest in her. So we need to be better as a society. We need to be better as a community. We need to have transparent conversations. We need to understand what others go through, and we need to make our decisions based on our future value and worth and our purpose, rather than what it looks good in today. And I can guarantee you that going through COVID, there are loads and loads and loads of businesses that will fail because they lacked representation, because they did not support their community when their community needed them, and most definitely because they chose to put their kind of earnings or they chose to impact the wrong, or maybe wrong's a harsh word, but they chose to kind of impact a different agenda point. And the new generation are woke Gen Z, millennials, alphas, they want sustainability, they want ethics, they're value led. So if your business is not value led and you're not fluid, then you don't have a space in the market in the next 5 to 10 years.
I think you said something there that inspired me, Sonya, which is, one of the truths that I've discovered in my entrepreneurial journey, which is the power of empathy. So the way we normally define empathy is, an emotional investment in somebody. But actually what I've realized, running any other design company software is when I'm making decisions, I need to ask a bunch of people's opinion because those people contradict me. They help me see things in a new way. And so for me, empathy is asking myself, why is this person telling me what they're telling me? So it's not just saying, hey, what is the content, but what is their experience that causes them to tell me this, which also helps me take into account that particular decision. And so I think what's really important for people to evolve on a personal level and kind of change their DNA, if you'd like, is really not just to be talking with others and then letting their biases filter whatever other people are saying, but consciously trying to understand actually what are the other person's biases and using those to enrich what is being told to them.
Yeah, so last year I was fortunate enough to give 2 TED Talks. My second one is already out on YouTube. And that talk was all on failure. And it was because I have significantly failed in the last few years, like so many failures, but it's got to me where I am. And I wanted an honest conversation because I'm tired of the conversation being fluffy and fairy tale, like everything's perfect and it all works out. It does, but it takes a lot of hustle for it to work out. So my point being is I create this talk and I thought, do you know what? I just need more people's opinion. So I kid you not, I went on my LinkedIn, I went on Twitter, because those are the only two kind of, and I'm not active user of Twitter, so LinkedIn was my kind of main forum. And I went on my WhatsApp groups and I literally sent a message saying, hi, I'm doing a TED Talk in December. I've recorded a 15-minute clip of the talk. If you please have any time, would you care to take a listen to it and give me feedback, right? 25 strangers across the world who I'd never met before reached out and were like, yeah, we'll be happy to. 25. Those 25 people listened to my talk that I'd not given yet and gave me such rich and valuable feedback that it meant I could reformat that talk, that audio, so it met and represented the views of everyone, but equally it involved and included them in that journey. Because as much as I'm all for equality and I'm raising this diversity flag, I have to appreciate that maybe therefore my biases come into what I say as well. And so I didn't want that to be public and I didn't want to not include anybody. And so, and of those 25 people, I think 10 of them were still really good contacts now where I've provided them with an opportunity or kind of supported them in some way. But it's that power of exactly what you've said. You have to not be afraid to ask, and you have to not be afraid to put yourself out there and be ready for that feedback, because that feedback is what's going to enrich your content and help you to grow and create that value. So my talk right now, it's not a short-term win, it's a long-term win. My talk right now maybe isn't doing as great as it could, or maybe isn't got the most likes on YouTube, but it's going to be there for the rest of history's time. As long as YouTube exists, my talk will on TED Talk as well. So that means that future generations are going to relate to a lot more, and it's going to be a topic that's universal, rather than just thinking short-term strategy and thinking, well, I don't need to ask anyone because, it doesn't matter if their opinion counts or not, which is wrong.
Well, that's a very interesting subject to actually close the conversation on, because design company software, we push this whole kind of openness to other people's opinion to absolute end there, because literally we're asking the software through the Anya chatbot platform asks questions across all these 7 areas of every single person every single employee in the company, what they're thinking and what they're suggesting can be improved, so that the management can continuously improve it and make it a perfect fail-safe kind of environment to work in, through embracing failures and things that don't work. So Sonya, where can our listeners find more about you, and what are you looking for the most right now?
Thank you. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is basically my hobby, which is the saddest thing to say, but it's true. So Sonya Barlow. You can also follow me on Instagram, so at Sonya Barlow UK. I'm doing a lot of thought leadership, a lot of content, both positive and very kind of tangible, let's say. So, you know, personal branding, confidence, public speaking, LinkedIn profiling, how to start a business. I've also started a podcast called Strategically Winging It, because that is
Love the idea.
that is what I'm doing, and that is what most entrepreneurs, founders, and side hustlers are doing at the moment. And of course, you can drop me an email on hello@sonyabarlow.co.uk. And my network is called Like-Minded Females. Our social channels are at LMF Network.
Awesome. Thank you so much for participating, and wonderful insights as usual.
Great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Awesome. I didn't know what to expect, but I've really enjoyed it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.